This is a big day for the podcast, being able to have a presidential candidate join the ranks. I mean, we've had people who've run for mayor before.
We have had mayor candidates. It's probably a bigger deal, honestly.
I think that we haven't truly examined what we could have done in the gubernatorial space.
Yes, yeah.
We kind of in-house talked about arranging an interview with Rocky De La Fuente.
Yes.
He would have been a presidential candidate too, but Rob just yesterday decided to throw his proverbial hat in the ring. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Listen, as I said in the campaign announcement speech, it's something that's been out there and floating. And I think last week on the podcast, I mentioned something to the effect of, why isn't there a better candidate? Why don't we have something better to choose from than what's out there right now? And, the passing of civil rights icons in the past couple of weeks has really gotten to me. And what was his quote? Making good trouble. Yeah. Making good trouble.
For John Lewis, yeah.
John Lewis's quote, yeah. Making good trouble. And I think that that just got to me over the past couple of weeks about maybe it's time to go out and make some good trouble. So. So we discussed a little bit, and we threw together some campaign materials and some videos, and those are going to be coming out. And listen, it is
put together a very safe, socially distanced press conference.
Yes, yeah. I mean, where I was the only person that was visible. Yeah, I didn't even pull the Cuomo where it's like, let's sit 6 feet apart. No, I'm the only person there. Yeah. But yeah, it's listen, we're 99 days out, so. Yeah. What is there to be done? I don't know. But if the DNC has not finalized their platform yet, the RNC has not finalized their platform yet. Although
this RNC has finalized this platform.
This RNC is finalizing the platform as we speak. And listen, I've been talking. I mentioned to somebody who sent me a DM about it. I just said, I've been writing these speeches and talking about these things for the last 15, 20, 25 years now. Yeah. So for me, it's just, for me, it's just getting it down and putting it down on paper and saying, hey, here's an alternative. Why is nobody talking about this? And, the things that we're not going to see from Joe Biden are a lot of the things that Bernie talked about. I wish that we would, but it looks like we're probably not.
Right.
But the other things we're not going to see from Joe Biden are common sense gun control reform. Like that's not going to happen. But you know who else who's not going to talk about that? Trump.
Right.
So these issues get lost in the middle. I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast again for the last 5 years, that if you were to poll the average American, they would say, maybe I don't own a gun, maybe I do. But in the end, I understand that the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are equal, and maybe we should honor them in the right way. And just like you can't scream fire in a crowded theater, maybe the person with mental illness should not be able to go buy a gun at Walmart.
Right.
Okay. That seems very common sense to me. And yet, no political candidate is putting forth a plan that addresses that.
Until now.
Well, and if you ask the average American, about many controversial issues, they're going to come down kind of in the middle. And it's the, honestly, I think it's the thing that's got to be inspired by Corey most of all. Because what you hear from Corey is this mix of slightly fiscal conservatism, progressive socialism, but also a lot of common sense-ism, where it's like, hey, I can be far right on this issue and far left on that issue. And I'll tell you that ironically, I saw a TikTok that also kind of confirmed for me that I was in the right place.
Yeah.
And it was the roommates, Never Trump and Always Trump, where it's just like, we have completely gotten in the mindset that I back this party 100% and they're always right, or they're the worst thing to ever happen and everything they do is wrong.
Right.
And that's just not how things should be done.
Well, there was that meme that was going around with the like normal face and the angry face, and it was the like fuck Donald Trump. And it's just like, oh well, what about Joe Biden? It's like, fuck Joe Biden too. And the guy was like,
wait, what? Yeah.
It's like this is not new for. I feel like if generally speaking, what I like about the idea of your candidacy is that you are coming to all these places from like that position of thoughtfulness and where you think is right. And it's not about like, oh, the DNC would be really upset if I said this.
Yeah.
Like, Joe Biden can't really go off the cuff with everything he feels because the DNC.
Somebody tell Joe Biden that, please.
Well, somebody within the DNC is going like, hey, listen, we got some Wall Street people we gotta look out for here.
Yeah.
You can't go fucking crazy on the taxing the rich thing.
Yeah.
We still have a constituency we got to worry about. Rob is not worried about any constituency.
No, absolutely not.
He's just going.
As my previous election record will show, raising money has not been a priority, nor has it been much of a success. But no, I just think that you have to, at some point, you have to say, what does the best candidate look like, and offer that, and just see what people say. And thus far, people have been responding well. It's strange that I've seen people. First of all, it's made me wade back into Facebook, which I instantly regretted all of the decisions because I have to go back in to the depths of Facebook. But it's so weird that I have someone repost the campaign video, and then I go to their wall and I see that it's just like always Trumper stuff after. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Now, if I had come out and said, I'm going for the Democratic nomination for president, never would have posted any of this stuff at all. It would have been, I'm enemy number one. But
right.
For me, it's just find a logical place and put forward a good policy. That's where we stand.
I mean, like me and you, we had a little contentious debate like coming up the elevator here, and I in your mind, I think you disagree with everything I was saying, but at the same time, you understood where I was coming from, and it was from a thoughtful place, and therefore we can have a vigorous debate of what the ideals are and not necessarily where a party stands on one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is something I said to someone else who sent me a DM. They were just like, the person you were in 02 or 05 or 10 or 15 is not the person you are today.
Yeah.
And they said, I mean, honestly, after I told them, I'm like, listen, I am ashamed of who I was then, but the person I am today is a result of who I am then. So you may dig back and find things, tweets or Facebook posts or anything from a long time ago. And I would like to think, and this person agreed with me, that when offered information that goes against my thought, I take in the information, I consider it, and more often than not, will change my position to the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And it's there's language I used as a teenager that I would not use now, and I should not have used then, but I did use then. And if asked about it, I will put it in that context. Me deleting it or saying it didn't happen is ignoring the fact that it happened. And it did. And was it okay then? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But it shouldn't have been okay then, and it's not okay now, and that's what we need to focus on. And, it's not about covering up the sins of the past. It's about finding a way that we can all move forward together. One of Obama's guys who does the podcast, who's just like, they really focused on, like, let's not look back. Let's look forward. I'm not going to say that is the entirety of it, because there needs to be a lot of analyze and reform. That's the thing, is I shouldn't say, hey, I'm an ignorant person now, and it doesn't matter what I did. I'm going to do what I want to do now. It's about that changed, and I needed to figure out what was wrong, and I needed to apologize for what I did. And I think this podcast over the last 5 years has been me saying, like, hey, so many years ago we said things. That was not okay. We should not have done that. And
generally speaking, I feel like I remember specifically when we talked about Freddie Gray. Mm-hmm. Before I'd even heard the line "All Lives Matter" being spoke out loud, I think that was one of the first things I said when you had specifically brought up like Black Lives Matter to me at that point. And it was like the first time, like this was a new thing at that time, because Freddie Gray was, maybe fourth or fifth along the national outrage calendar.
Hashtags. The hashtag names.
And at the time when I said that thing, again, not motivated by some sort of thing that would become bigger than itself, I was trying to express yes, every single life matters the same, and I think we should treat every life the same. Not that certain people, but like it was that's a thing of growth I find in myself. And I admit that, like, if I would have known the depths to which that statement, even though off the cuff and not influenced by some sort of outside force, was still going to be like, I think you have to admit when you've made mistakes, or else you're just like, what good are you? You know?
Well, it's HBO Max running Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
But putting in front of it an explanation that this is the time in which this was made, and these things are, I had as
Looney Tunes cartoons and stuff like that. Like
I had as my cover photo the Warner Brothers thing that ran before Looney Tunes cartoons for a while. That was like, this is a product of its time. For us to pretend it didn't exist is for us to try and cover up the past.
Yeah.
We show this in the context of this is the time, and then it was followed up. Obviously, it's hard to do that in a cover photo, but it was followed up with a little contextualization about like Jim Crow, not okay. But we show this cartoons because we do not want to pretend it didn't happen. Yeah. This is part of our history. We embrace it. We are not the company that we were when we put this out.
Well, and I mean, like, I think that honestly, anything that we might have said has been kind of small potatoes, considered that there have been actual people who have said worse that are in positions of power. I mean, like, I think of Hillary Clinton and the super predators comment, like, all the time. Like, that's not like it happened, in the 60s when Hillary Clinton was just shooting off the cuff or something like that. That happened at a press conference in the mid-90s when all the crime bills that were getting passed were out there predominantly affecting what happens next. So, like, in a way, the comments of Hillary Clinton, which she, I'm sure, was coming from a position of, we have to back police unions, we have to be seen as tough on crime, we have to stand up against drugs, like all these things that were important at that moment, which now further down the roads are not as important and, in fact, detrimental to the ideal of a more safe and just police force.
Yeah. I mean, that 94 crime bill that was created by Joe Biden, candidate for president this year. But no, I also don't want to get into business of whatabouts. It's not about whatabouts. It's, if Hillary Clinton wants to come out and apologize for that, which I don't think she ever did in the 2016 campaign,
I think she apologized for inappropriate terminology or something like that. Like, she tried to jump around the it sounds really bad out of context, but you have to understand that at that time there were some really bad gang members who were like these incredibly violent people.
Yeah.
And we're talking about taking down the El Chapos of Baltimore and stuff like that.
That's not what you said, though.
I know, but I'm saying she tried to reframe the argument. That's the.
I do want to say, though, on this topic, I just want to make sure we address. Last week, we used the term Native American several times, and we did get a message over the course of the week that perhaps, depending on the person, they may have preferred us to use the term Indigenous person.
Yeah.
And so I would just like to say, if anyone was offended by our use of Native American, we, of course, did not intend any offense. And we were referring, of course, to indigenous persons of North America, and we will try to use the term indigenous persons.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, again, that's a perfect example of growth over time.
Absolutely.
Because as a child, it was all Indians all the time.
Yeah.
That was the only term you would use to describe an indigenous person. And then over time, it became Native American because that seemed like the more politically correct approach to it. But it also never factored in the community or the desires of the community as much.
Yeah. It's a bunch of white people who look like us saying hey, okay, Indian's not okay. Native American, got it. All right.
Well, I mean, and I feel like that one, for whatever reason, stuck. I remember for a long time after African American black, because there was a discussion of you can't ever say black again. It's just completely inappropriate. And then mostly the black community came together and said, that's really so far down the list of concerns. It's not even sure, call me an African American, it's fine. But you can call me black too. It's fine. It's not a big huge deal.
When actually insulting to parts of the community who are identified as from the Caribbean or from South America, and it's just listen, because I have black skin does not mean that I'm an African American. My family comes from wherever, and it's a lot of that was Tainos, people who were mixed with people from South America or Central America or the islands, and it's I don't know. But I can identify with my skin color, which is why they say Black Lives Matter. Because, by the way, Corey, your family's from England, Ireland, Scotland.
Yeah, France, Germany. Yeah, all over those.
And, my family is very similar.
Northern Europe.
Easy to identify because at some point, one of our ancestors signed a paper, came over on a boat, and then probably signed a paper when they got here, possibly.
Yeah.
The reason, and I had to have this argument with somebody this week, the reason that the black people have a culture of around being black is because they don't have that.
Yeah.
I can go to Ellis Island and see one of my ancestors who signed a document there. I can also go back to the second charter of Virginia and find James Cheek, who signed that document and freely sent his second son over to America.
Well, not only that, but I can go back into, like the 14th, 15th century with people in my family if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And that is not a luxury that's provided to a lot of people.
It's, people who were brought here against their will, taken from their tribe, from their family, from whoever, from somewhere, shipped over to the coast, and then brought here in indentured servitude.
And so much of the problem, too, was that like people were being shipped out of port cities in Africa, essentially.
Yeah, but...
So you could be from, pick a country in Africa, Congo, and just brought down to some port city and shipped out of there. And the last is you were in Johannesburg. And then, all of a sudden... I know it's a long trip.
No, that's just geography. Congo's on the coast, and Johannesburg is South Africa. So,
I know, but I'm saying,
But no, you at best, a family...
I couldn't pick out a Congo city, which is the problem. I was trying to think of African cities on the coast.
It's actually not Congo anymore. It's the Central African Republic.
Is it?
Yes. It used to be the Democratic Republic of Congo, but now it's the Central African Republic.
Is it Central African Republic of Congo? Or
Central African Republic.
So Congo's gone.
Congo's gone.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
The more you know.
Congo is from Belgians called it Congo.
So
okay. They went when they became free. They named themselves the Democratic Republic of Congo, but then they got rid of Congo altogether. Although the people still sometimes refer to themselves as Congolese, even though they are from the Central African Republic.
I wouldn't want to give it up completely, but I understand why you wouldn't want it to necessarily be a part of the name. Sort of the Rhode Island conversation we were having.
Yes, yeah. But if at best you could find paperwork to trace your family all the way back, realistically, all you get back to is Johannesburg, South Africa, or Congo, or Madagascar, or somewhere. And it's like, after that, I don't know. They showed up here one day, and money was traded for them, and then we put them on a boat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then even figuring out the lives of slaves or where they were at any particular point in time. I mean, it can be tough for people who have a written lineage.
Yes.
As it is, but it's more difficult, obviously, when nobody gave a shit about that sort of thing. So,
and one other piece of news I just want to say for the podcast.
God, that presidential talk went all over the place.
Yeah,
just like the real Rob Cheek for President campaign.
Yeah, I was going to say it's if anybody wants more information, RobCheekforPresident.com, CheekForAmerica.com. You can find more information there. Links to all the social media stuff and all the information about the campaign.